The pine forest outside Elytus smelled of resin and gun oil in the last week of June 1941. Captain Vytautas Petrauskas crouched beside a fallen birch, counting the seconds between the distant rumble of Soviet T-34 engines and the nearer clatter of German half-tracks. 23 years old when he had first worn the green uniform of independent Lithuania, 32 now, he felt every extra year and the ache behind his knees. His 8-man squad, officially the 3rd Reconnaissance Platoon of the dissolved Lithuanian Army, unofficially the Iron Wolves, waited in silence. Real history pressed in on them like the humid air. On 22 June, Operation Barbarossa had detonated along a front 2,000 kilometers long. By the 24th, Kaunas radio announced the provisional government. By the 26th, German security police were already compiling lists. The squad's first mission had been simple: cut the telephone line between the Soviet 29th Territorial Rifle Corps headquarters in Elytus and the retreating Red Army columns. They had done it with a pair of wire cutters and a single K98K rifle covering the road. Tonight, the mission was harder. Ambush a German supply convoy, rumored to carry ammunition for the 7th Panzer Division. Petrauskas checked the weapons one last time. Himself, captured Soviet SVT-40 semi-automatic rifle, 10-round magazine, 7.62 by 54 mm R. Sergeant Jonas Kozlauskas, his second in command, pre-war Lithuanian Army Karabinės 98K, 5-round internal box, iron sights zeroed at 300 meters. Corporal Antanas Rimkus, the scout, a sawn-off double-barrel shotgun loaded with deer slugs, useless past 50 meters, but devastating in the underbrush. Private First Class Stasis Vytautas, radio operator, no rifle, only a captured German Torn Fu B1 backpack set and a Tokarev TT-33 pistol. The twins, Mikas and Algirdas Petrauskas, one with a DP-27 light machine gun taken from a burning NKVD truck, the other its assistant gunner carrying 4 spare pans. Young Vladas Urbonas, barely 17, a bundle of RGD-33 grenades and a Suomi KP/31 submachine gun traded from a fleeing Finnish volunteer. Finally, the sniper, Ona Lukšaitė. Yes, a woman, because the best shot in the platoon had been a forestry student who could put 3 rounds through a pine cone at 400 meters with a scoped Mosin Nagant M9130. They wore no insignia. Lithuanian tricolor armbands had been burned the day the Germans outlawed them. Instead, each man carried a small iron wolf pin sewn inside the collar, symbol of the pre-war nationalist youth, now contraband. At 22:14, the first headlights flickered between the trees. 3 Opel Blitz trucks, canvas flaps tied down, escorted by a single SDKFZ-222 armored car. Petrauskas raised 2 fingers. Wait. The DP-27's pan clicked into place. Rimkus slid a kerosene-soaked rag into a milk bottle filled with gasoline, Molotov cocktail number 1. The lead truck slowed for a fallen log the squad had dragged across the road an hour earlier. A German lieutenant jumped down, cursing in Bavarian dialect. That was the signal. Ona's rifle cracked once. The lieutenant dropped, a neat hole above his right eye. The DP-27 opened up, 47 rounds in 4 seconds, stitching the canvas side of the second truck. Screams inside. Ammunition crates, not men. Good. The armored car's 20mm autocannon began to transverse, but Vladas was already sprinting, Suomi chattering. Tracers sparked off the light armor. Mikal and Algirdas raked the tires of the third truck. Rubber exploded like gunshots. 10 seconds. 15. Petrauskas lobbed a grenade under the armored car's chassis. German Model 24 steel hand grenade captured in Kaunas. The blast lifted the rear wheels. The turret gunner never fired again. "Cease fire!" Petrauskas shouted in Lithuanian. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of burning gasoline and the low moan of wounded Lansers. They worked fast. 1,200 rounds of 7.92 millimeter Mauser, 18 cases of 98K rifles still in Kosmoline, 4 NP-40 submachine guns, each with 6 magazines, a crate of teller mines, useful for railways, medical supplies, morphine syrettes, sulfa powder, bandages stamped Wehrmacht 1940. And in the cab of the last truck, a sealed leather dispatch case. Kozlauskas slid it open with his bayonet. Inside, orders for Einsatzkommando, signed by SS Standartenführer Karl Jaeger. A map showed assembly points for resettlement actions in the 7th Fort outside Kaunas. A separate sheet listed names: 3,200 Jews, 47 communists, 116 Lithuanian intellectuals. Execution scheduled for 29 June. Petrauskas felt the forest tilt. He had studied law in Kaunas before the Soviets came. He knew what resettlement meant. The squad looked to him. "We take what we need," he said. "Burn the rest, and we remember the names." They poured gasoline over the trucks, lit a fuse of twisted rag, and vanished into the trees before the first explosion lit the night orange. By dawn they were 20 kilometers east, hidden in a forester's bunker near the Merkin marshes. There, under a kerosene lamp, they cleaned weapons and argued. "We hit the Germans now while they're spread thin. Every convoy we burn is one less bullet for the Russians later." Ona cleaned her scope with a scrap of silk. "And the lists? If we do nothing, those people die in 3 days." Vladas, cheeks still round with boyhood, asked the question none of the adults wanted to voice. "Are we soldiers or policemen?" Petrauskas unfolded the stolen hap on the dirt floor. Red pencil marked the 7th Fort, the 9th Fort, Ponary Forest, future killing fields. He thought of his sister, married to a Jewish doctor in Vilnius. He thought of the oath he had sworn to defend Lithuania, not to choose between tyrants. He said, "We are wolves. Wolves protect the pack. Tomorrow we scout the 7th Fort. If we can delay the roundup even by a day, we do it." They slept in shifts. At 3 a.m. the torn Fu radio crackled with German traffic. Aleutis convoy overdue. Partisans reported. Increased patrols. Stutthof concentration camp was mentioned. New arrivals expected from Lithuania by August. Petrauskas stared at the wolf pin inside his collar. Iron could bend, but it would not break. The 7th Fort crouched on a low hill west of Kaunas like a stone toad, its brick casements blackened by a century of rain. Built by Tsar Alexander III to guard the Vilna road, it had never fired a shot in anger until the Soviets used it as an NKVD prison in 1940. Now, on 28 June 1941, German trucks idled in the courtyard while Lithuanian auxiliaries, white armbands, rifles slung, herded families toward the main gate. Captain Vytautas Petrauskas watched from a rye field 600 meters away, belly flat to the earth, Mosin Nagant, borrowed from Ona, pressed to his cheek. The scope's Soviet reticle, simple post and cross, framed a child's red shoe left on the cobblestones. Heat shimmered. The air stank of diesel and fear. Real history. The first massacre at the 7th Fort took place on 4 through 6 July 1941. Einsatzkommando III, under SS Obersturmführer Joachim Hamann, shot 293 Jewish men and 4 Jewish women on the 4th alone. By August, the tally would climb to 3,200. The Iron Wolves had 5 days, maybe less, to act. Petrauskas' squad lay in a skirmish line behind him. Kozlauskas had the DP-27, bipod dug into the soft earth. Ona kept her own scoped Mosin. She had insisted on the captain's rifle for the longer shot. Rimkus carried the captured MP-40 and 2 teller mines. Vladas cradled the Suomi, drum magazine taped jungle style for quick reload. The Petrauskas twins hauled ammunition boxes and a crate of Molotovs. Stasis monitored the torn foo, whispering intercepted orders. Urbonas, the youngest, had been sent back to the bunker with the dispatch case, insurance if the squad never returned. The plan was reckless, born of sleepless hours over the stolen map. Delay the roundup by mining the access road. Create confusion with sniper fire and firebombs. Extract any prisoners who broke during the chaos. No illusions of stopping the Germans, only of buying hours, maybe a day, for some to scatter into the forests. At 0917, the first civilian column appeared. Men in prayer shawls, women clutching infants, old people supported by grandchildren. Lithuanian police prodded them with rifle butts. Petrauskas' finger tightened on the trigger. He forced himself to count heartbeats. 1, 2. Ona's voice, calm as winter water. Gate guard, left tower, wind from the river, 3 clicks right. He exhaled, squeezed. The guard dropped without a sound. A second later, Kozlauskas' DP-27 opened up, short bursts stitching the courtyard wall. Chips of brick exploded. A horse bolted, dragging a supply cart. Rimkus was already crawling forward through the rye, tellermine in each hand. The road curved behind a stand of alders, perfect choke point. He buried the first mine under loose gravel, pressure plate just below the surface. The second he wired to a tree with fishing line. A truck's bumper would snap it. Inside the fort, panic rippled, and German NCO bellowed orders. Lithuanian auxiliaries, many drunk on looted vodka, fired wildly into the air. Petrauskas saw a woman in a blue kerchief break from the column, 2 children behind her. She ran for the sally port. An auxiliary raised his rifle. Ona's second shot took him through the throat. The woman vanished into the drainage ditch. "Molotovs, now!" Petrauskas hissed into the hand-talkie Stasis had jury-rigged from a field telephone.
The twins rose like ghosts, bottles arcing overhead. Glass shattered against the lead truck. Flames whooshed up the canvas. Black smoke billowed. More prisoners bolted. A teenage boy vaulted the wall, landed rolling, and sprinted toward the rye. German machine gun fire answered. MG-34 from the casement, 600 rounds per minute. Rye stalks exploded around the squad. Vlada screamed, hand clamped to his thigh. Blood pulsed between his fingers. "Suppress!" Petrauskas roared. Kozlauskas walked the DP's muzzle across the embrasure. Tracers sparked off stone. The MG-34 fell silent. Barrel change or gunner hit. Rimkus reached the ditch, dragged Vladas behind a fallen log. Sulfa powder, pressure bandage. "You'll keep the leg, kid. Just don't look at it." Petrauskas counted. 4 civilians out, maybe 5. Not enough. Never enough. Then the unexpected. A roar of engines from the Kaunas road. Not the scheduled convoy, something heavier. A Kubelwagen flew the swastika pennant of Einsatzkommando 3. SS Sturmbannführer Hamann himself, early. The gate guards snapped to attention. Hamann stepped out, leather greatcoat despite the heat, pistol already drawn. He barked something. The auxiliaries began shoving prisoners back into the courtyard. Petrauskas made the call. "Fall back to phase line Birch. We bleed them on the road." They leopard crawled through the rye, dragging Vladas on a poncho. Behind them, the first teller mine detonated. Front axle of a second truck lifted, flipped, crushed the cab. Screams, secondary explosions from fuel cans. At the Birch line, they regrouped. Stasi's radio spat static. "Fortress secure. Partisans repelled. Proceed with action." Hamann's voice, calm, almost bored. Ona lay prone, scope to eye. "Range to Hamann, 420 meters, wind still 3 right." Petrauskas hesitated. Killing the commander might scatter the killers or enrage them to faster slaughter. He thought of the red shoe.
Take the shot." The Mosin cracked. Hamann spun, coat flaring, but kept his feet. Bodyguard had shoved him at the last second. The bodyguard took the round center mass, dropped like a sack. Return fire was immediate. A half-track's 20mm cannon raked the tree line. Bark exploded. Splinters shredded Kozlowski's sleeve. "Time to go," he yelled. They melted into the forest, using deer trails and stream beds. By dusk, they reached the bunker near Merkin. 60 kilometers in 9 hours, Vladas feverish but alive. There, in the lamplight, they counted costs. Ammo, 40% expended. Men, Vladas wounded, Urbanus shaken. Civilians, 7 confirmed escaped, including the woman in blue and the teenage boy, names unknown. And a new arrival, the boy, Davidas Glickman, 16, son of a Kaunas pharmacist. He had hidden in the drainage ditch, followed the squad's trail by broken twigs and blood drops. He carried a canvas satchel stuffed with forged identity papers, blank Aryan Ken carton, ready for ink. Petrauskas offered water. Davidas drank, then spoke in educated German. "They will kill everyone by tomorrow. My father, he told me to run. Said the forests have wolves who bite both bears and eagles." Kozlowskis laughed, a sound like gravel. He wasn't wrong. That night they buried the empty ammunition crates and planned. The 7th Fort action had bought 12 hours. Hamann postponed the full massacre to reorganize. 12 hours for rumors to spread, for some to hide in attics, cellars, barns. But the Germans adapted fast. Patrols doubled, roadblocks on every bridge, and the radio spoke of Stutthof, rail cars already loading undesirables from Vilnius. Petrauskas pinned the stolen map to the bunker wall. Red X's now marked Ponary, the 9th Fort, and, new, a rail siding near Vievis where cattle cars waited. "We need allies," he said. "Jews, Poles, escaped POWs, numbers, or we're just gnats." Davidas unfolded his satchel. Inside, not just papers, but a list, names of Kaunas Jews with forest relatives, safe houses, a doctor willing to treat partisans. "My father's patients, they trust him, they'll trust you if I vouch." Ona cooned her rifle, eyes on the boy. "Trust is a bullet you can't reload." Petrauskas made the decision. "We move at dawn. Vievis siding. If we free one train, we save hundreds. If we fail..." He didn't finish. Outside, wolves howled in the Dzūkija darkness. Real ones, not iron pins. The squad listened, weapons across their knees, and felt the forest breathe with them. The rail siding at Vievis lay in a shallow valley between pine ridges, the tracks gleaming like a silver scar under the July moon. Cattle cars, 40 of them, stood nose to tail on the spur, doors barred from the outside, each stenciled 8 Pferde oder 40 Personen. Real history. Between 7 and 11 July 1941, Lithuanian Ypatingasis Buleris Special Squad auxiliaries loaded 2,977 Jews from Vilnius ghettos onto trains bound for Ponary or direct deportation. The Iron Wolves had 48 hours before the next transport rolled. Captain Vytautas Petrauskas knelt beside the embankment, binoculars to his eyes. Steam hissed from the locomotive, a Polish pre-war Pu-29 tender engine, now flying the Reichsbahn Eagle. Guards, 6 Lithuanian policemen in gray uniforms, 4 Wehrmacht railway troops, 1 SS sergeant with an MP-40. A single MG-34 on a tripod covered the unloading ramp. Searchlights swept the gravel yard in slow arcs. The squad had grown. Davidas Glickman, now David, carried a forged Ken Karta naming him Darius Grigas, ethnic Lithuanian, and a captured Bergmann MP-35 submachine gun. Dr. Miriam Levin, 31, former Kaunas pediatrician, had joined after treating Vladas's wound in a barn near Rumšiškės. She carried only a medical satchel and a Walther P-38 taken from a dead auxiliary. Sergeant Bronius Šimkus, escaped Soviet POW, brought a PPSH-41 drum magazine submachine gun and a grudge against both occupiers. The original 8, minus Urbonas, left at the bunker to relay messages. Total: 12 fighters, 1 doctor, 1 mission. Open at least 10 cars before the train pulled out at 0400. Petrauskas's plan hinged on speed and misdirection. Sabotage the points, switch the rails so the train couldn't leave. Neutralize the MG nest, cut power to the searchlights. Free prisoners, herd them into the forest before reinforcements arrived from Kaišiadory's garrison. They split into 3 fire teams. Alpha, Petrauskas, Ona, Kozlauskas with DP-27. Objective, MG nest. Bravo, Rimkus, the Petraitis twins, David with explosives and close assault. Charlie, Šimkus, Vladas, Stasis, radio, and Dr. Levin to the rear aid station. At 0247, Rimkus crawled under the last cattle car, wire cutters snipping the brake line. Air hissed. The train would roll nowhere fast. He planted a 1 kilogram TNT charge against the switch mechanism, fuse set for 0315. Ona lay prone 300 meters out, Mosin scope on the MG gunner dozing against sandbags. Wind negligible. She exhaled, fired. The gunner slumped. His assistant never woke. Kozlauskas's DP-27 barked 3-round bursts, shredding the searchlight cables. Darkness swallowed the yard except for the engine's firebox glow. Bravo team moved. Rimkus lobbed a smoke grenade, British number 77, captured in France, into the guard shack. White phosphorus flared. Lithuanian police stumbled out coughing. The twins' Molotovs turned the shack into a pyre. David sprinted along the cars, crowbar prying door bars. The first door slid open on screams. 80 people packed so tight they fell out like grain. "Greti, Mishkas," he hissed. "Quick, forest!" An SS sergeant rallied 3 guards, MP-40 blazing. Šimkus rose from the ditch, PPSH roaring. 900 rounds per minute chewed the gravel. The sergeant dropped, chest shredded. Petrauskas reached the locomotive cab. The engineer, a terrified Reichsbahn civilian, raised hands. "Bitte, ich have a Kinder." Petrauskas knocked him cold with a rifle butt. He uncoupled the tender. The engine would pull nothing. By 0312, 8 cars stood open. Maybe 600 souls stumbled into the night, barefoot, clutching bundles. Dr. Levin triaged in the tree line, typhus cases, a woman in labor, a boy with a broken arm. Then the charge detonated. The switch exploded in orange fire. Rails twisted like licorice. But the blast woke Kaišiadoris. Headlights appeared on the access road, 2 Kubelwagens, a troop truck. "Contact rear," Šimkus yelled. Petrauskas made the call. "Exfiltrate north. Rendezvous at the Nemunas ferry ruin." They ran. Prisoners scattered into the pines. The squad laid a trail of caltrops and a final teller mine on the road. The mine took the lead Kubelwagen, front axle gone, occupants screaming and burning fuel. Dawn found them at the ruined ferry dock, 30 kilometers away. Head count, squad, all present, Vladas limping, Rimkus burned on 1 arm. Civilians, 312 confirmed, Davidus count. Lost, 1 cattle car still sealed, maybe 80 souls. The train never reached Ponary. Germans machine-gunned the remainder on the siding. History's ledger. They buried their empty magazines and fed the fugitives rye bread and water. Dr. Levin delivered the baby, a girl, under a pine tree. They named her Lausve, freedom. That afternoon, Stasis intercepted a German bulletin. Partisan attack at Vievis. 300-plus Jews escaped. Increase security. All males 15 to 50 to be shot on sight. Signed, SS Gruppenführer Lucien Wysoki, HSPF Litauen. Petrauskas gathered the squad. We bought them a day, maybe a week, but the net tightens. We need a permanent base, bunkers, caches, allies. Davidas unfolded a new map, hand-drawn, inked from memory. Safe harms circled in blue. A priest in Dzūkija, a forester near Aukštadvaris, a Jewish tailor in Stakliškis with a printing press for forged papers. Šimkus spat. And the Soviets? They'll be back, mark my words. Kazlauskas laughed bitterly. Then we'll shoot them too. They moved at dusk, a column of ghosts and newborns. Behind them, columns of smoke rose from Vievis, retribution fires. Ahead lay the deep Dzūkija forests, where bunkers waited to be dug, and winter loomed like judgment. Snow came early to Dzūkija, a white shroud that muffled the world and froze the blood in men's veins. By 10 October 1941, the Iron Wolves had vanished from German patrol maps, swallowed by the 1,000-square-kilometer wilderness south of the Merkys River. Real history, at least 30,000 Lithuanian partisans would eventually hide in these forests, but in 1941 the resistance was still a handful of ragged platoons, each fighting for its own survival. Captain Vytautas Petrauskas stood on a hummock of frozen moss and surveyed the new camp. 6 earth bunkers, zieminis, dug into the slope of a ravine, roofs camouflaged with pine boughs and snow. Smoke from a single stovepipe curled upward, dispersed by a canopy of spruce. A latrine trench, a weapons pit, a medical dugout, and a corral for 2 stolen horses. Population 38 fighters, 112 civilian dependents, 3 infants. The squad had swelled and fractured. Original 8 intact, though Vladis walked with a limp, and Kazlauskas' left ear was frost-nipped black. Davidas now led a forgery cell, ink, stolen typewriters, blank Ken cartons smuggled from Kaunas City Hall. Dr. Levin ran a clinic in a bunker lined with birch bark insulation. Typhus had taken 4 lives already. Šimkus commanded a 12-man Soviet platoon, escaped Red Army stragglers who swore to fight Nazis first, settle scores later. New blood. 18 Jews from Vievis, armed with captured Kar 98Ks. A Polish Home Army liaison, Captain Tadeusz Nowak. 6 Lithuanian deserters from the 1st Police Battalion. Weapons cache. 1 December inventory. 27 Kar 98K rifles, 4,800 rounds. 8 MP40s, 2,100 rounds. 3 PPSH-41s, 12 drums. 2 DP-27s, 18 pans. 1 scoped Mosin Nagant, Annas. 14 kilograms TNT, 42 grenades, 6 Teller mines. 3 horses, 1 sled, and 1 captured Kubo-wagen on blocks, engine frozen. Food, 400 kilograms rye flour, 120 kilograms salt pork, 80 liters of honey, 2 sacks dried mushrooms. Enough for 90 days at half rations. The first real test came 14 November. A Lithuanian police battalion company, 120 men, led by Captain Pranas Ambrasas, swept the forest for bandits. They burned 3 villages, shot 27 men, raped 2 girls. Petrauskas' scouts tracked them to a cordon line near Marcinkonis. Ambush at the Black Stream. Anna took the commander at 520 meters, headshot, brain mist on snow. Kazlauskas' DP-27 enfiladed the column. Šimkus' PPSH flank attack routed the rest. Booty, 31 rifles, 2 MG-34s, 1 damaged, 4,000 rounds, winter greatcoats, a field kitchen sled. Losses, 2 partisans dead, 1 civilian guide frozen in retreat. German response was swift. On 22 November, SS Sonderkommando 7B arrived with bloodhounds and flamethrowers. They torched the old Merakine bunker. Urbonas, left as rearguard, died with a grenade in each hand. His body was never found. Winter hardened the squad. They learned to live like animals, sleep in snow holes, eat pine needle tea against scurvy, navigate by stars. Children learned to strip a Car 98K blindfolded. Women boiled laundry in cauldrons of melted snow, patched boots with birch bark. Moral fracture came in January. A supply run to Stakliškis returned with rumors. The Ypatingasis Būris had murdered 7,000 at Ponary in December alone. Among the dead, Davidas's parents. The boy, now 18, sat in the snow for 3 days, forging papers no one needed, until Dr. Levin sedated him with captured morphine.
Then the Soviets arrived. On February 2, 1942, 3 NKVD agents parachuted near the camp. Captain Ivan Morozov, political officer Anna Volkova, radio operator Yuri. They carried PPSHs, a crate of vodka, and orders. Unite all partisans under Red Command. Prepare for liberation. Petrauskas met them in the command bunker. Maps, tea, suspicion. Morozov spoke fluent Lithuanian, pre-war KGB training in Vilnius. Comrade Captain, the motherland forgives past mistakes. Join us. Receive supplies, airdrops. Resist separately, and you resist history. Kozlowska spat in the dirt. History raped my sister in 40. I'll pass. Volkova, eyes like winter steel, laid a dossier on the table. Photos, Petrauskas shaking hands with a German officer, June 1941. Taken out of context during the anti-Soviet uprising. Collaboration, she said softly. Punishable by bullet. That night, the squad argued until dawn. Šimkus wanted alliance, Soviet weapons, no questions. Davidas wanted revenge, any flag. Ona wanted neither. I shoot fascists, I don't salute them. Nowak warned of Katyn, 1940, 22,000 Polish officers murdered by NKVD. Petrauskas made the decision at sunrise. We take their radio codes, their explosives, we give nothing. If they push, we bury them in the snow. The Soviets stayed 3 weeks. Morozov taught demolition. Volkova tried to recruit. On 23 February, Šimkus vanished with 6 men and half the PPSH ammo, defected to a Red Partisan brigade near Rudamina. Betrayals cost. German intelligence, tipped by Soviet double agents, raided a supply cache near Varna. 4 partisans hanged from pine trees, genitals stuffed in mouths, SD signature. Spring thaw brought mud and choices. In March, a Jewish escapee from Kaufering subcamp, Dachau complex, stumbled into camp, emaciated, tattooed A1703. He spoke of 30,000 slaves building underground Me-262 factories, guarded by SS and Kapos. They ship us east, he whispered. Lithuanians too. Stutthof next. Petrauskas stared at the map. Red lines now spidered across Lithuania. Ghettos liquidated, rail lines to death factories. The Iron Wolves had saved hundreds, killed dozens of enemies, but the forest shrank daily. On 28 March, scouts reported a new threat. Lithuanian security police, Saugumas, forming anti-partisan Jaeger companies, 500 men, dogs, and mortars. Base camp no longer safe. That night, Petrauskas gathered the leaders. We split, 3 groups. Wolf 1, me, Ona, Kozlowskis, 20 fighters,
mobile sabotage. Wolf 2, Davidas, Dr. Levin, civilians, deep forest, survival. Wolf 3, Noach, Poles, intel network to Warsaw. No one slept. Weapons cleaned, packs stuffed with rye bread and ammunition. Children cried, clovers clung in the dark. At 400 hours, 1st April 1942, the camp burned. Bunkers collapsed into their own ashes. The iron wolves scattered like seeds on the wind. Some to fight, some to hide, all to remember. Petrauskas' last order carved on a birch trunk. Iron bends, wolves endure. Spring 1943 arrived in Dzūkija with the smell of thaw and gunpowder. The iron wolves had become legend and liability. German reward posters offered 10,000 Reichsmarks for bandit Captain Petrauskas, dead or alive. Real history. By mid-1943, over 200,000 Jews had been murdered in Lithuania. Ponary, 9th Fort, Kaiserwald. Partisan ranks swelled to 5,000, but Gestapo Jaeger sweeps killed or captured 8,000 civilians in reprisals. The forest was a graveyard of burned villages and shallow graves. Captain Vytautas Petrauskas, hair gray at 34, eyes older, led Wolf 1 from a string of mobile caches. 20 fighters lean as wolves, armed with captured STG-44 assault rifles, first battlefield pickup near Rudninkai, July 43, Panzerfausts, and a single British Sten Mk2S silenced submachine gun airdropped by SOE. Ona still carried her Mosin. Koslowskis had traded the DP-27 for a belt-fed MG-42, 1,200 rounds per minute of mechanical thunder. They hit and ran. 12 May, derailed a troop train near Valkininkai, 28 dead SD men, 400 rifles captured. 3rd July, burned a Saugumas records office in Eišiškės. 1,200 index cards of bandit families fed to the flames. 19 September, ambushed SS Obersturmführer Franz Morer, the butcher of Vilnius, on the road to Švenčionys. Morer escaped, his driver did not. Each success brought days of hunger. Rations, 200 grams bread, 50 grams fat, pine bark soup. Scurvy blackened gums, trenchfoot rotted toes. Dr. Levin sent coded messages via Catholic priests. Need vitamins, sulfa, morphine. SOE parachuted 2 canisters near Aukštavaris, quinine, condoms for waterproofing matches, and a note that read, "Hold until spring 44, Red Army at Smolensk." Winter 1943-44 was the cruelest. Temperatures fell to negative 38 degrees Celsius. Wolves ate their own frozen dead. Wolf 2, Davidas, and the civilians lost 31 to typhus in a swamp bunker. Wolf 3's Polish network was rolled up by Abwehr, and Noach hanged in Warsaw's Pawiak prison. Then came the betrayal. On 14 February 1944, a runner reached Petrauskas with a message in Davidas's handwriting. Stutthof transport, 1,200 Lithuanian Jews. Rail halt at Šilutė, 27th February. Possible rescue. Coordinates, guard rotations, even a bribe for the rail dispatcher. Too perfect. Kozlowskis smelled it. Trap. Šimkus sings for the Gestapo now. Ona checked her scope. We verify, then we decide. They sent 2 scouts, Rimkus and Vladas, now 20, leg-heeled crooked. They returned 20 February with photographs. Cattle cars on a siding, yes, but ringed by flak towers, searchlights, 2 companies of Waffen-SS, and Šimkus, fat, warm in a black greatcoat, drinking schnapps with the camp commandant. Still, 1,200 lives. Petrauskas called a council in a snow hole lit by a lard lamp. Options. Walk away? Hit the train anyway? Suicide? Hit Šimkus instead. Make him pay. Ona spoke first. We owe the dead, but we are not dead yet. Plan born of desperation. Diversion. Blow a bridge 10 kilometers east. Draw the SS. Infiltration. Forged Saugumas papers. Davidas's last gift. 2 prisoners, Ona and Vladas, in striped rags. Extraction. Cut the fence. Herd prisoners to the Curonian Lagoon. Stolen fishing boats to neutral Sweden. 200 kilometers of ice and patrols. They rehearsed for 6 days. Weapons oiled. White camouflage smocks sewn from bedsheets. Panzerfausts wrapped in rags to muffle clanks. 26 February 1944. Shilute siding. Moonless, minus 25 degrees Celsius. Wind off the Baltic like knives. 0310 hours. Kozlauskas' team, 8 men, placed 20 kilograms TNT under the Nemunas Bridge. Timer 0400. 0345. Petrauskas and Ona, in stolen Saugumas uniforms, marched prisoners Vladas and a Jewish teenager named Ruth toward the guard post. Papers perfect. The sentry waved them through. Inside the wire, 42 cattle cars, doors iced shut. Emaciated faces at slats. A child's hand reached out, fingers blue. Ona whispered to Ruth in Yiddish, "We are wolves. Run when the lights die." 0398 hours. Bridge exploded 10 kilometers away. Orange flash, then thunder. Searchlight swung east. Half the SS garrison piled into trucks. 0402 hours. Petrauskas cut the generator cable with bolt cutters. Darkness. 0403 hours. Rimkus's team, flank, opened with MG-42. 1,200 rounds chewed the guard towers. Tracers lit the snow red. Chaos. Prisoners kicked doors from within. Bars splintered. Hundreds spilled out, stumbling, falling. Dr. Levin, waiting in the tree line, shouted triage points. Petrauskas reached car 17. Inside, Davidus, skeletal, eyes huge. "You came," he croaked. No time. Petrauskas slashed Davidus's bonds with a bayonet. Lagoon, boats. Then the trap snapped. Floodlights blazed, auxiliary generators. MG-42 nests the scouts had missed opened up. Shimkus's voice over loudspeaker. "Surrender, Petrauskas, or we shoot the children first." A line of SS formed, rifles aimed at a knot of toddlers. Ona dropped to one knee, Mosin up. 400 meters, wind left to right 5 kph. She exhaled, fired. Shimkus's head exploded like a melon. Return fire shredded the snow around her. Vladas dragged her behind a cattle car. "We're pinned." Petrauskas counted. 400 prisoners out. 800 still locked. SS closing. Boats 3 kilometers away. Impossible. He made the call no commander wants. Wolf 1, exfiltrate. Take who you can. Kozlauskas laid suppressive fire. MG-42 barrel glowing red. Rimkus lobbed a Panzerfaust into an SS half-track. Boom! Secondary fuel explosion. Cover. Ona, bleeding from the scalp, grabbed Ruth and Davidus. "With me!" They ran. Prisoners scattered. Some to the lagoon. Some deeper into forests. Some cut down in the open. Petrauskas covered the rear. SG-44 on full auto. A German officer charged. Petrauskas bayoneted him, felt the blade scrape rib, twist in lung. Warm blood on his hands. Last sight, Dr. Levin dragging a child, coat on fire from tracer rounds. Then the tree line swallowed them. Tally at dawn, 28 February. Rescued, 312, mostly women, children, Davidus. Squad, Petrauskas, Ona, Kozlauskas, Rimkus, 4 others. Vladas missing. Dead, 600-plus prisoners machine-gunned in the cars. Stutthof records later confirmed 1,193 arrivals, none from Shilute. They reached the lagoon 1 March. ice too thin for boats, crossed on foot 14 kilometers to the spit, then stole a fishing trawler from Nida. Sweden by foremarch, neutral waters, Red Cross blankets, disbelief. Epilogue in fragments. Vytautas, survived, testified at Nuremberg, 1946, about Ponary, Stutthof, Shirute. Died 1987, Israel. Ona, emigrated to Canada, taught marksmanship to police. Never spoke of the child's hand. Died 2001, Canada. Kozlauskas, returned 1945 with NKVD repatriation squad, arrested as collaborator, shot in Dzūkija prison. Petrauskas, lived under assumed name in Chicago, worked as a janitor, carried the Iron Wolf pin until his death, 1973. Vladis, body found spring thaw, hands bound, shot in the mouth, Shimkus's signature. The Iron Wolves were erased from official Soviet history, labeled bourgeois nationalists. German records called them Waldteufel, forest devils. Lithuanian schoolbooks mention them in one line. Some resisted both occupiers. But in Dzūkija, old foresters still leave bread and salt at certain birch trees. They say if you listen on November nights, you hear iron claws on pine needles and a captain's whisper, "Wolves endure."